What in Logic's back with another one. Today we're going to look at a video of George Santos interviewing Destiny, two very interesting people, and I really thought it'd be cool to cover it. For those that don't know, George Santos is a former, I believe, New York congressman. He's a pretty interesting guy. He has a reputation for being a habitual liar, embellishing crimes has been committed against him, lying about his background and family history, lying about money. He's been indicted on money laundering, wire fraud, and everything within that realm. And we all know Destiny, the controversial political commentator. He was recently in some hot water, but he's still kind of making the moves that he can make. And yeah, I would thought it'd be pretty interesting to see these two people have a conversation. Don't know where it goes or what happens, but I'm ready to see. So before we get into it, make sure you leave a like, comment, sub, if not one, then all three. Now, let's get to the video.
Press the button now.
And it's great to have you in studio. So I was talking to my team who managed me. Debbie was telling me that your guys have been reaching out to my guys for quite some time to go on your podcast. And I guess there was an impasse or whatever. Full disclosure, open to doing your podcast. You're here. I will go on yours. I want to start with that because I think it's fair to say, like, I haven't gone on yours and here you are. So thank you for coming. Thank you for being here in New York in person.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me.
Wait, excuse me. Did you know that he was evading coming on your podcast? I'm not trying to start stuff. So
No.
But were you
I
aware
wasn't
of
evading.
that? Sounds like you're evading because Debbie didn't answer. Were you aware of that?
I mean, I'm a big bully online, so it makes sense that.
So he was afraid, maybe.
I wasn't
My guess is
afraid.
it's probably, you know how it goes. It's probably like somebody was communicating that didn't communicate something up, and
Okay.
I'll say this.
That's diplomatic. I like that.
But all right, so Destiny, like 90% of the people on my side of the aisle would call me crazy for sitting with you. I don't listen to 90% of the side of the aisle. I tend to, I go out of the mold. I don't care. So what led you to start a category of being a social media influencer who doesn't just dip your toes in politics, but nosedives in politics?
I think my background when I was born and then up through high school, my mom is Cuban, so she's like very, very
You're
politically.
Hispanic?
If that counts, I guess.
I mean, Cuban, yeah. Of
I've
course.
heard people argue back and forth, but
You can be any ethnicity you want on this
thank you.
podcast.
True, that's right. That's why I'm
It's
a
all
progressive.
ish.
Exactly. I've heard that one before. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I grew up in a very politically active household. A lot of like arguing and debate. That side of my family are very much like they scream at each other when they're having a discussion, and then at the end, everybody's cool. And then from 18 to 22, I guess, and earlier than that, I was very much like an online person. And the online chat rooms, everything are very, very, very brutal. Okay, like horrible, terrible stuff that would, if those logs existed, half the people that used to exist back then would not exist online today.
AOL type chat rooms?
Way, way, way worse than that.
Oh.
Stuff that would make Hitler blush. Okay. Very, very, very,
Jesus.
yeah, very degenerate, very horrible stuff. But coming from that environment, and then I was a professional gamer for a while. And then around 2016, I got into politics. I kind of had the very edgy, abrasive background, but my politics was like kind of left leaning, and there was nobody that really did that. And the right kind of had this monopoly on facts over feelings, and we're going to debate you, and blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, well, I can do that. And then that was kind of how I cut my teeth early on, was debating right wingers in a really aggressive way, basically.
Who's your first debate with?
Oh, man.
First.
At least notable person, right?
First, I mean, back
John
then
Tron.
it would have been
John Tron.
the first like probably really, really big one was a guy called John Tron.
Yes.
Who's a big
No,
YouTube
no.
guy.
Figure.
I also
John
debated
Tron.
a lot of the like Nick Fuentes and Lawrence Southern and like those types of, I'll say like alt-right was the word we used back then. I guess those types of figures. A lot of
alt-right
people
is
who would
the
show,
right now.
show up at J6 or get convicted later on. I guess like I debated like Joe Biggs on gun control, stuff like that. Yeah. Basically, everybody that's been kind of in that, I think Stefan Molyneux, these kind of people. Yeah, Sargon of
What are you finna
Akkad.
say?
I don't know if you're right
These are all now just friends.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
What is your biggest gripe with the alt-right?
With the
The
alt-right.
biggest gripe with the
Is
alt-right.
that a real
What the
thing?
fuck?
Is that like
I
there's
mean,
such thing?
I like the term. It's cool. It's better than calling them racist. But what's your biggest gripe with them?
Back then or today? Because I say the movements have
You
kind
know
of changed a bit.
Okay, starting off back then, and then I want to also ask how they've transitioned and transformed to today.
I think back then, I mean, I'm trying not to use any trigger words, but
Oh no! Please trigger me. I
well, I'm
love
not
it.
trigger service. Neo-Nazi was like a very accurate kind of way to encompass a lot of those beliefs. A lot of the people were very like. I think Stefan Molyneux flew to Poland and was crying because it was so beautiful. How many white people there were, and that kind of like the very anti-brown immigration, like that stuff. I thought that was kind of.
Hey, she fresh as hell. I can't. I just realized I wanted. I was thinking it the whole time, but like, shorty fly. Like this fit is cold.
I just didn't like the negative tinge of all of it. I guess like
That's pretty bad. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, not necessarily just because of the racism, but because I feel like the story that they told of America was just very sad. I thought that like everything had come from like white European people and nobody else made any contributions, and that just kind of bothered me.
And then what about now? Who they've become now?
Now I think the term alt-right isn't really used anymore. I don't see it much. Now you kind of got like the MAGA movement that came more from the Tea Party than the alt-right, but there's been kind of some fusion there.
What do you call your people? Like, what do y'all call?
Americans,
People.
You're an independent now, right?
Oh,
I'm an
okay.
independent.
Now I've never seen this podcast before, so I don't know where his co-host aligns. I don't know. Maybe she doesn't. I don't know. I don't know where she aligns because clearly, George Santos, he's a Republican, so he's more conservative now. This girl, I have no idea, but she's saying your people, so I don't know if that means she doesn't fall on that side.
Independent these days. Yeah. I mean, look, I dish
What's
out
your gang
shit
called? I
to
forgot.
each and every faction of every party. I don't care.
Okay.
They're a bunch of frauds. It's like I love how they like to
We
pin
can agree
me,
on that.
but they're all frauds. I mean, I saw Capitol Hill from the inside, so for me,
I like this, George.
but I'm still conservative.
Don't
I'm
like
like
that one.
conservative independent, right? But the reality is
Okay,
I mean,
so
yes,
maybe
I'm a
she
very much
probably
Trump supporter,
leans.
and that's not going to change, right? It's never going to change.
I'm glad you guys admitted it.
I admit it. It's never going to change.
It will.
It's
It
like-
can change.
It
Okay,
cannot.
so
I
she
don't know.
probably-
No.
so she's not a Trumper.
I have
He's not
said this
intrinsic
before.
with it, and I know that. I've already psychoanalyzed him. It's not an intrinsic thing.
Donald Trump can go on Fifth Avenue right now and shoot someone, and it would not change my support for him because I would.
Bro, he really just took like I'm wondering if he's. Yeah, I'm sure he took it from when Trump said it, but come on, bro, like. Stop. This is insane, bro. It's no way. It's no way, bro. It's no way.
Would probably find it justifiable.
God.
Yes.
What do you mean you would probably find it justifiable? The point is, it's not. The point is that he would do it unjustifiably, and y'all will still support him, as you just openly admitted. So what the hell is going on, bro? Like, why is that a thing for y'all? I don't get it. Why? There's nobody that. If Obama did that, nobody would support him on the left, I'm sure. I mean, I ain't gonna say nobody, but the overwhelming majority of people would not support no shit like that unjustifiably. What the fuck?
I
You
am
should
okay
not
with
have
that.
said that,
That
on
sounds
this podcast. You
insane.
should
That
not
I
have
know
said
it's
that.
insane, but
I know.
I'm
That
just
is-
trying.
So you realize how indoctrinated you
It's
must
not-
be?
Is he being hyperbolic? I hope he's speaking
Indoctrination.
Your brain is fried.
fried.
Do you hear what you just said? He could go
Fried.
and shoot somebody.
Yes,
and he's not
because-
God. He's not Buddha, Jesus, any of our other higher powers. That
I don't.
I bring like I have questions in mind when I'm arguing with Trump
Go.
supporters, and one of the questions
Please
that I
ask,
have,
'cause it's
well,
you.
it's too late now because one of my questions is like, what's the line for you? Because I feel like every time
there's
the line
no
is
line.
It's
made,
not
It isn't a line.
racism. It's
Well,
not
obviously, yeah.
being a predator.
it's not deporting people. It's not being.
It's
a
not deporting people that
rapist,
look
it's
like
not any of
you
these
that are in
things,
your
I
own
guess.
It's not
family.
commercials at the White House.
Yeah. Oh, the car commercials.
Right, just like Joe Biden did for Jeep.
Okay. Here, I'm just.
No, he had everybody there to welcome in electric vehicles. It wasn't like an endorsement for a singular car company. Stop.
So here's a question, okay? Because you've been involved in
Stop.
government, you've
They're
had
so
quite the background and everything
dishonest.
else. How do you, when you think of America and you think of like the history of America, what are like cool standout moments to you? Where if you had children or if you were talking to younger kids, you're like, this is why America was such a cool country.
Lincoln and the liberation of slaves and trying to end something that I believe is the darkest past of our country.
He did not abolish slavery because it benefited the enslaved African. I don't call them slaves anymore, by the way. They're enslaved people. So he did not do that for the benefit of those human beings that were treated like cattle. He did that for a financial benefit. That's historically proven.
Let's
So-
go later on. There is a quote saying if Lincoln said if he could, I think, reunite the North and South by freeing all the slaves, he'd do it. By freeing some of the slaves, he'd do it. And I think by freeing none of the slaves, he'd do it. I think that's a quote. But regardless, a little bit more in history, like forward.
In history, for me, like when I point back, is every time we were able to correct
Why don't he say like in the past like 60 years or something? He should say that.
fault.
Would you say like World War I, World War II, going to the moon?
I think going to the moon was great. Even though there's questions surrounding that, we all know that the broadcast was actually a simulation.
Oh my God, a simulation in the fucking 60s? Like, dog. Oh my God. Oh, I hate these people. Oh my gosh. How did I'm watching something that I'm thinking is just a political conversation, and we still stepping into conspiracy theories about the moon landing. Go figure.
Oh man.
Was that proven?
I didn't know I was going on the Joe Rogan experience. Hold on, I gotta
hold on. People
shift my brain.
are
Oh, man.
saying
Exactly. As I'm sitting there, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I didn't think this would end up here.
that the broadcast was a simulation.
I've heard
People say things all the time, bro.
that.
I subscribe to we went to the moon.
Okay.
Personally, I subscribe to that belief.
I would like to
you.
think that we
Me
did. Why
too.
not?
I
Thank you.
subscribe
So
to that
stop-
belief, but I'm
don't
just saying
bring up
people are now
Easter
saying that.
bunny, like there's all these things we can choose to believe. I choose to believe. that.
Again, I
agree.
choose to believe we
Do
went
you
to
think
the moon.
we went to the moon?
Absolutely,
Yeah, so do I.
And I don't think any of the broadcasts could have possibly been simulations.
My
Like I
wife
said.
thinks that we did not go to the moon, and she will not budge. It's outrageous.
You see,
Divorce her.
so I believe we went to the moon. I'm subscribed to that thought, right? I points in time in history that I enjoy are when we abolished slavery, when we abolished
there. What do you
segregation,
mean
when we
enjoy?
gave women rights. These are all things I
weren't
appreciate
there.
All
as a
things
person.
that white men took away from people.
But
That's crazy
they were also
that we
given
get
by
to
white
enjoy
men.
them. They were
Bad white men took it away, but good white men gave
It
it
was
back.
some of the good ones that benefited too.
Well, what I'm just saying is you can't just blame.
I don't know if those are good. I think he's looking for more recent examples.
like-
Is that
Yeah,
what?
well, here, this
He
is-
said
I guess-
history, and that's how I look at our history.
One of the things I'm thinking of that I don't like about kind of the current Republican Party's isolationist bend.
I don't like that either.
Oh, okay. Because I look at like the situation in Ukraine, and I think it's
But you
really sad
support
that the United
Trump.
States has just like completely abandoned that position.
The situation in Ukraine, I'm super sympathetic to it.
Oh boy.
But
No.
there's a
Hear
but.
me out. It's not a but. I hate Vladimir Putin. I've been on the record. I'm actually barred from going to Russia. And I visited Russia prior to my political. I'm a theater kid, so I love
What did you do to get barred from? We'll put a pin in that.
Well, no, what I did was like, have you seen my speeches on the floor about Vladimir Putin? Oh, they're not pretty. On the congressional record. They will live forever, right? I am no fan of Vladimir Putin, of any dictator or mass murderer, as I like to call
But
them.
you love your God, Donald
He's
Trump.
not my God. He's my president, and I like him because he
Who can shoot
relates.
somebody in the street in the daytime.
Whatever. That was a
and he win.
metaphor.
No,
but-
you meant that.
No, it
Okay,
wasn't.
whatever. So my point here to you
That's
is,
why I said, was it hyperbole?
if we're
'Cause
gonna
what's the line?
really talk about Ukraine and Russia, I want peace, and I think you want peace, and I think we all want peace.
Nobody. That's no.
I want peace because peace means no more lives being killed.
Yeah, but we've never used that standard.
Everybody's going to. I don't want nobody to die. Well, it's not that nobody wants people to die. You're not saying anything profound. These people are their sovereignty is on the line. I made this example. If Mexico decided they wanted a piece of Texas or whatever the hell, or Canada wants a piece of fucking Montana or something, you don't just be like, oh, let's just stop, give it to them. Like, we want peace. Oh, people stop dying. No, what the fuck are y'all talking about?
There's a conflict anywhere else, right? Like yeah, but we'd never use that standard as a conflict anywhere else, right? Like the Revolutionary War in the United States, that was very unpeaceful.
It was very unpeaceful. I agree,
War
but
is typically the opposite of peace.
but understand this. Do we want the United States to intervene to squash it, or do we want the United States to intervene to continuously fund it? A, it's expensive. B, there's a life toll that is unsurmountable.
We bring up the life toll. I guess if we're leaning into black
wanna
issues,
fight.
we can quote more MLK. What is it that the complaint about the white moderate in that letter from a Birmingham prison? I think he wrote that they prefer a negative peace to a positive justice. So basically the idea that as long as everybody shuts up and chills, everything is better than people actively fighting against systems of, in the 60s, right, it was segregation and stuff. But I guess the issue that I have when people bring up peace so much is nobody really wants peace. People want justice. You can always have peace, right? You just give up. You can always surrender any war. But it just seems strange that the country, who who says, give me liberty or give me death, would look to another country and say, maybe if you guys just like give up 20% of your territory.
I don't think they should. I don't
Yeah, but
think
that's
they
what
should.
Trump's
What the fuck are you
negotiating.
talking about?
Like I said, I don't think they should. And Volodymyr Zelensky, to his own credit, said he was willing to give up certain parts of Ukraine. He
Because
said
Trump is
that.
making him do it, right?
No, that was prior to Trump even coming in to telling him
Because
that.
they have no other choice. But like this would be a circumstance I would imagine where the United States comes in and says, "Hey, this is wrong. It's a clear wrong." Like it's not like Israel Palestine where things
But
are
Destiny,
whatever.
let
But this
me
is like
ask
a
you
thing
this.
where it's
Here, do you rather the United States intervene for peace, or do you rather them continue to fund war?
I would rather we fight for justice. I think it's
So
way
you
more
want them to
important.
continue to fund war?
Of course, I want
That's
them to.
nuts.
I want.
the military-industrial
nuts?
complex wins, and I thought you were a guy who was totally against the military-industrial complex.
I
'cause
love the
am.
military-industrial complex. I wish they would be more active, okay? Because we are completely abandoning Ukraine. But I mean, to that point, then let's say that Russia invades Poland. Do you say, well, we shouldn't fight at all because there might be death? Or if they invade Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania,
Well, but
the
if they invade Poland, then there's Article 5 of NATO.
so there's still going to be death involved.
Well,
right?
I understand, but then there's a
So
whole
Article 5
alliance.
is more important than death.
So, yeah, because now it's like, oh, we have a contract with them. So, yeah, forget those lives don't matter. It's like, yeah, those bodies could keep dropping until there's peace. That position is kind of untenable for real.
It's not that Article 5. We have a moral obligation, just like they had a moral obligation to come to our aid after 9/11. So when we're talking Poland, it's a different story.
We don't have any moral obligation
But
to
that's
Ukraine.
all he's saying is, well, the Polish lives are more important because yes, Ukraine isn't part of NATO, but we have an alliance with them because of the what was it, the Budapest Memorandum? I believe that's what it is. We still have a binding contract with Ukraine. It's just not NATO. It's just a different kind of deal.
Ukraine.
We don't.
There's a very clear bad guy, a very clear good guy.
In your opinion, what's the solution?
The solution is to tell Ukraine and to tell Russia that we're going to support Ukraine literally until they've completely given up fighting, and it's going to be the most painful incursion into sovereign territory that Russia's ever done.
What would that do for the U.S.'s relationship with Russia? And we see there's
Our relationship with Russia is already horrible.
Do you think
What
that
about
benefits us, though?
how about we concern ourselves with our relationship with Europe, who is like currently looking at the United States as abandoning its entire post as leader of the free world, I guess. Or look at like places like Taiwan or other places under threat.
Do
in
you
the
think we
world.
should intervene in Taiwan and go to war with China?
I haven't done extensive research there, so I don't like to stake a strong opinion, but I like the idea that everybody in the world is thinking or was thinking, if we invade a place, the United States might show up and fuck our shit up. But right now with Ukraine, it kind of looks like that's not the case. Now it looks like the U.S. under Trump wants to play like big power politics, where it's like, as long as you're the big boy on the block, you can take over whatever you want and do whatever you want, kind of like how we're bullying our neighbors, Mexico and Canada right
from
now.
reality, Destiny. That is not
What's
how
divorced from reality?
That is not how President
part?
Trump wants to lead the United States.
He's-
Why are
I
we
think he's saying
terrifying
that's how we
Canada and
look.
Mexico more than China? Our tariffs are bigger on our allies than China.
Well, I understand, but have you seen the tariffs that Canada and Mexico has imposed in the United States?
Yes, they
unfairly?
were all
Retaliation,
negotiated
though,
under
right?
Trump.
Under
It's
Trump.
called the U.S. Mexico Canada
the
Trade Agreement.
USMCA was a little bit of an improvement from NAFTA, but nowhere near sufficient to remedy
But
all
Trump
of the bad
did it.
trading.
What bad
agreements.
trading stuff?
Dude, why are we taking in so much Canadian steel and shutting down our steel?
We're not shutting. We're a huge economy. Of course, we're importing a ton of stuff. That's good for us.
Sure, but we're importing more than we're producing domestic steel. That's
We're
the problem.
so-
And
why is
Canada,
that a problem?
And Canada
You keep
tariffs the shit
saying
out of
that
us on
like
steel.
like there's just some foregone conclusion that that's just some type of issue. Explain why that's an issue. How is it an issue? Why?
That's
We're
a
in-
problem. And
Why is
Canada,
it a problem?
And Canada tariffs the shit out of us on steel. So I think it's not. Look,
Because they can produce so much. Why do they need to import steel when they're producing enough for themselves and for us? What's the point of them importing steel when they got it to give to us and for themselves? We don't have the people to do all these fucking manufacturing jobs that they claim they want to keep bringing back.
Oh, wait. Hold, just to be clear, okay, and I'll cite a wise man 6 years ago, Ben Shapiro, okay? If you look at high export economies, places like Iran, places like North Korea, places that have net exports, these are not good economies. You look at high importers, you look at people like the United States, the United Kingdom, like these are good economies. You would rather be somebody who's buying stuff because we're using it, right? Like I don't go to Walmart and think about my trade deficit with Walmart. I'm buying stuff because I'm using it. I would rather
trade
us be
deficit with
training
Walmart.
software engineers and working on AI than having fabrication plants to make steel.
So look, all right,
yeah.
we're not
Okay,
going to
yeah,
do that.
we're not
But since you
make
brought up
fucking
Ben Shapiro,
sense.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to ask you a very interesting question. Do you rather moderate a debate between Ben Shapiro and Hassan, or be trapped in an elevator with Jordan Peterson while he explains a food pyramid to you?
That's funny.
Am I allowed to argue with Jordan Peterson?
You're trapped, and he's explaining you the
Can I
food pyramid.
argue about it with him?
No.
Then I moderate the debate, I guess.
Oh, really? You'd rather moderate that debate?
That sounds like a fun debate to moderate.
It depends on the elevator. If I have anything to kill myself with, then maybe I would go with the elevator. But otherwise, I think I'm moderating the debate. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean,
was
I think Ben Shapiro and Hassan should take that offer up, and I think, guys, you should let Destiny moderate a debate between you guys. I think that would be gold.
Okay, but if you
Hassan
could
would never debate Ben Shapiro, I don't think. I think he's too scared.
argue with Peterson, like what would your argument be?
I don't know, man. We had one debate and it was a disaster. I mean, like in my mind, I feel like conservatives are just completely divorced from reality. So,
Well, I
would
mean,
just wanna-
and I feel like you're completely divorced from reality.
I know.
Let's dig into that though, George. Let's dig into that. I'm sure you don't want to.
I have all the facts on my side, but
Exactly.
Okay.
I don't know. It would be over
Okay.
some very narrow factual point. Like I would want to have like a 4-hour debate on like excess deaths in Europe and talk about like the vaccine, or have like a 3-hour conversation about like climate change, or just like one narrow point. Because when you look at all these like long form podcasts like the Joe Rogans and everything that Jordan Peterson goes on, it's just 3 hours of yapping and rambling and nobody actually dives in on any deep point. It feels like I'm just listening to Twitter being reposted in real time on the podcast for like
Sensory
3 hours.
overload. Yeah.
I love how you're saying like you're just dunking on X. You're on X though.
Like unwillingly.
No, you're not. Do you not make money on X?
No,
No,
Elon
not no
personally
more. Right.
defunded or demonetized my account.
Oh,
so-
you're demonetized.
Personally?
Personally.
Well, I mean, he showed. I don't know if it's him posting on his account or not, but
That's not really free speech of Elon. Elon,
He's
come
not
on.
known to be a free speech type of dude,
Yes,
though.
he
He's
is.
anti.
This
well,
is
they're
the
super
second
free
guest-
speech
Believe it,
until
that-
they disagree with you, like how they're deporting all those Palestinian protester kids now, I guess, who are lawful permanent residents. But
They're
you
not
know,
lawful permanent residents. A lot of them are on visas.
The Khalid, whatever,
He was
Mahmoud
on
guy,
a visa. He was on a student visa.
He was on a,
no,
he's a green
he
card.
was on a
It
green
doesn't
card.
matter. That doesn't give you
That's
the
a law
right.
of permanent
Doesn't matter.
resident.
First of all, why'd you just back off from what you originally said? He said he wasn't a, he said he was on a visa. No, he has a green card. Well, it doesn't matter. Why did you say it as if it was part of your argument? Because it does matter.
Visa. He was on a student.
Even the people on visas, they still have the right to free speech in this country.
Permanent residents. A lot of them are on visas.
The Khalid, whatever, Mahmoud
He was on
guy,
a visa. He was on a student visa.
He's a green card.
It doesn't matter. That doesn't give you
That's
the
a lawful
right.
permanent resident.
I understand, but it doesn't give
I
you
understand.
rights to be a resident.
Do you see how
Do you think
quickly
he
you
should
get?
have gotten deported?
Exactly.
You think he
See
should
how quick he backed off of it, and that the argument doesn't stand. None of that matters. He can say what he wants in this country.
have gotten? Did he deserve
After
to be?
inciting what he did here in Columbia University, yes.
That's a
And
crazy
you know,
stance.
and you know
That's so
how I am with
crazy, bro.
immigration. I am not a hardliner on immigration like
That's
most
crazy.
Republicans are.
Why, what about the First Amendment? We don't think that
We
people-
have the First Amendment. The problem is when you're creating a hostile environment for Jewish students to attend school, which I witnessed. Nobody told me. I'm not going off of videos. I went to Columbia because some Jewish students that were from my old district asked me to go. And me and a couple of friends went to do kind of escort them to class without creating too much of a fuss. Well, that was a mistake on my part because obviously I was going to draw the most irate reaction from the protesters. That being said, I still did my part once. I figured I'm not good for this, but I witnessed the hostility of them saying, you will not enter school. You will not go to class.
Yeah, I think that's bad.
Because you're,
But
so
if
that's
people are
bad.
blocking you, you should charge him with crimes or something.
Well, he was part of that problem.
Was he charged with a crime?
Well, no,
No.
because it's New York City, right? In
What?
2020, in the summer of love, when everybody literally,
Oh
you
my
I'm
could,
talking about BLM. I know.
No, I'm not-
I know we got the pull to BLM for every
no,
single
no, no,
issue.
no. I'm not
But I'm
pulling
just saying.
BLM.
I'm just saying.
I'm not blaming
If
anybody.
he wasn't
I'm just-
charged with a crime, we're going to deport people for protesting for stuff that we don't
New
agree
York
with.
City and New York State chose to not charge him with a crime. The feds looked at that as criminal activity, as thug activity, and they decided to take action. It's indicative on them. The State Department controls issues.
It seemed like Shorty disagrees with him a lot, and they got a whole podcast together, which I wonder how that goes on a day-to-day basis.
Issuances of green card, visas, and all of that. And the Secretary of State decided to revoke his green card. And,
Do you
and that
support
is
Joe Biden's pardoning of his son Hunter Biden?
I do. It's his dad.
Oh, okay.
I would have done the same. I disagree, like politically, but I would have done the same. It's my kid. I'm not going to leave my kid out to
It's
dry.
so hard to predict what his responses are going to be.
I'm not going to. But
Maybe.
look,
Well, the issue is that like
and
the
I'll
issue,
go a
the
step
issue
further.
is that like if you like conservatives talk about the First Amendment so much that like if people are getting banned from Facebook or X, which are two platforms, I think Donald Trump sued and he claimed that they violated his First Amendment right, which is ridiculous, but they settled anyway because he's friends with the CEOs. People will say that's a First Amendment
Wait,
violation.
is he friends with Mark Zuckerberg now?
Yeah, of course.
Yes,
They all
what the
showed up and
fuck?
donated money to his little thing, and
Talking about-
Zuckerberg is on
yes.
his whole
His
Trump
little
suck
thing.
up.
I mean, his inaugural fund.
Yeah, that he had like the four richest men in the world, I think, standing behind him when he was doing his inauguration. But I'm just saying that when it
Exactly.
comes to green card holders, now if the president declares somebody a terrorist group and you're protesting in support of them, you can be deported.
You're outta here.
You can have your green card revoked. That's insane.
crazy.
no, that's
crazy.
what.
That sounds like a good way to
that
suppress
happened-
free speech, though.
No,
What
It
is
is.
that?
You
It is.
should
That
be
would be
here
a
in
good
the
way to
first place.
suppress free
No,
speech,
no.
wouldn't it?
Like this is crazy how much how far they will go to defend this orange fuck. Because how on earth all of a sudden all this free speech shit goes out of the window if you disagree with Trump or Trump wants to do something to somebody that because he doesn't like what they're doing. Y'all don't care about free speech anymore.
Wouldn't it? Yeah.
This happened literally in the city, the one city in this country that experienced an act of terror of insurmountable proportions, which was 9/11. You're going to tell me
Oh,
that people who
why are
are
you bringing this-
protesting and literally screaming Hamas talking points and flying the Hezbollah flag in New York City, that they have a free speech right to advocate for terror groups in this city?
I
mean, come on. In
Ironically,
this city?
I've talked about this on stream a couple times.
Dude,
The turning point of my
did the guy actually do that? Him himself. I don't know about the group.
life where I started to move from Republican slowly to libertarian and then over to liberal.
You were a Republican at one point?
My mom was Cuban. I was a hardcore. I wrote in my school newspaper defending the Iraq War and George Bush and everything else.
You see, and I
shit.
hated the Iraq War and I hate George Bush.
One
He's
of
a
the
war
big turning
criminal.
points for me was 9/11 when I saw people in New York who were protesting against a mosque being built. And I was like, hold on. I don't think that's very American. I thought we were supposed to defend everybody's right to speak. What's that? I'll defend your right to speak even if I disagree with it or whatever.
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
might disagree with it, but I'll die for your right to defend it, right? But I'm saying that like, yeah, so if you want to support the Palestinians or if you want to support whatever crazy thing in the United States, Nazis, whatever, you have the right to do so.
No,
It's disgusting.
I
but-
think if you're supporting any groups of extreme or terror, I do believe that officials can,
He's finna-
in my opinion,
he's finna go there.
look at you and say, I think you're a liability and you're not an American citizen and you were granted this green card, but it is not a birthright of yours.
But that's not how it works.
Gave it to you, we can take it away. And that's what they did. And I support that action. And it would have gone even if it was somebody from, I don't
Would you
want
extend this to like naturalized citizens? Is that what they go when if you
No, because once you become a citizen, you're a citizen, you have rights. It's a very high bar to actually revoke a naturalized citizen's citizenship. It's very, very high bar.
So basically, you're saying, hey, you're a guest in this country. You're in
A
our
green
house
card
now.
holder
You need
and
to
a visa,
chill.
yes.
You need to play by the rules. Be quiet. Be cool.
To
Stay
be clear,
in the box.
green card is a lot different than a visa.
I understand,
It's
but
hard to get a green card. Visas are very easy to get.
I'm not
Sure.
saying they're easy, but you're still not you're not entitled to a green card.
Okay, so question. Next election cycle, Rashid Tlaib or the other one, Ilhan Omar becomes president somehow, and they say, I declare the IDF a terror group. Do you think it would be okay to start deporting lawful permanent resident Jewish people that support Israel and have protests in favor of Israel because they're supporting a terror group, the IDF?
So if the president of the United States pulls a proclamation declaring any institution or any organization a terror organization, it falls within the law. Yes.
That's crazy. You see Destiny face. Now it's just, so basically the president can just be like, I feel like this is a terror organization, therefore I can deport people. And he has to concede on that point because of what he just said. But I think in any other circumstance he wouldn't like that if the other side of the aisle started to do it. But it's easy to do that when he knows that that's probably never gonna happen. So it's easy for him to bite that bullet right now. But I don't think nobody wants that, bro. Like y'all, you full of shit, bro. Like that's insane to me.
Even though I disagree, but you're putting me to interpret the law. I'm going to interpret it fair. If the president of the United States turns around and says the IDF is a terror group, which I don't think anybody's going to do other than Rashida Tlaib, if there was anyone who would ever do it, or maybe AOC, I would challenge the designation. However, if it's upheld and it is customary and there are people doing,
Do you feel like spiritually, like in the spirit of the First Amendment, is this like a good?
I don't think it's a good road to go down, but
Okay.
you can't compare the IDF to Hamas, though.
I think you can.
I don't think you can. The IDF is a military is literally the military forces of a country.
I understand. So
Hamas is a terrorist organization.
I don't want to go down the whole foreign policy route. So just online, I am known as like a Zionist simp, okay? Because I typically defend the Israeli side more than the
so do I.
Palestinian side.
Okay,
However, I will say one issue with terrorism over the past like 20 years is terrorist groups used to be like these non-state actors. They were like small groups like Al-Qaeda or maybe ISIS, although ISIS started to take over territory. I think the challenging thing with Hamas is that Hamas was the de facto or the de jure administrator to the Gaza Strip. So if you go out and you protest in support of the Palestinian people in Gaza, you're almost always supporting Hamas. You kind of have to be.
Oh, they had one election, right?
Sure, but I'm just
you
saying.
elect,
I'm just
you
saying
elect
that you see
something
the,
like that once only because they don't give you an option.
Sure, I'm just saying that you
election.
see the challenge there, where it's like, well, this is like a state basically, and now if you protest in support of that state, it's a terror group as well. So you're in a weird world. Like if you were to designate the IDF a terror group, can people not protest in support of Israel now because they're always supporting the IDF? That's just a really scary world to be in, I think.
Look, I don't disagree with you, but to the point you made earlier, I'm pretty reasonable. I don't like that Joe Biden pardoned Hunter, but I support it because I would have probably done the same if it was my kid. I think every
not about
parent
if you would have did it.
If you have a chance to save your kid. And I'll go further on that. I think that the gun charges against him were bullshit. They infringed his Second Amendment rights.
Yeah, that was
completely.
I will give George credit for not playing partisan for every single thing. I'll give him credit for that. He's not partisan on shit that's obviously wrong. Yes, Hunter committed a crime, but it's like, bro, y'all was on bullshit, clearly.
Video recording?
That entire thing was bullshit.
4473, is that the form, the ATF form for buying a gun? Have you ever bought a gun before?
I've never bought a gun before.
Oh,
No.
the confusing thing is the first question they ask is, are you an unlawful user of a narcotic substance, including marijuana? And what does that actually mean? Does that mean you've ever used it? Does that mean you're currently high while filling out the form? Does it mean?
Well, that's where Hunter Biden got caught.
Exactly. Yeah. But
Yeah,
but it's like
I
if you
think the
smoke weed
question-
and then you go buy a gun, can you fill that form out, or are you actually breaking a federal law? Nobody
But
really
the question
knows.
on its face value is also arbitrary and it violates Second Amendment in general. Are you a gun guy at all?
I have so many. I love guns. Yeah.
Okay. So you probably agree with me on this. The question itself should be removed from the form. That's my take. There's other
I
ways
would
to
say
ask
so,
that
yeah.
question. Yeah, there's.
I
other
like
ways to
it
ask
as
that
like
question.
I think it's good as an aggravating charge.
Of course,
So like
sure.
if you're high and using a weapon at the same time, maybe you get an extra ding for that or a penalty for that.
Sure,
for sure. Yeah.
whatever,
But,
no
yeah.
problem. All right, Naja.
So
It's
we
not very
have,
lighthearted. Oh man. Anyway, sorry.
let's lighten it up because I want to jump back on this Twitter thing. If you had to pick one person to get permanently banned from Twitter,
Elon Musk.
but
Oh, sorry.
but the consequence is that you have to take over their career, who would you pick?
Elon Musk.
So
No.
You have to take over their career, so you're the Doge czar now.
Oh, and I could disband it immediately. It would either be Elon or Trump, obviously, one of those two guys.
okay, okay.
Oh, so you want to be president of the United States?
Hell yeah, that'd be fun. It seems like if Trump can do it, I
What's
guess
the first
anybody
thing
can.
you would do as president?
First thing I would do as president,
Yes.
is I would get the most ruthless attorney general that I could find, and we're going after all the lawbreakers on the Republican side and the Democratic side if there are any left. But oh man, there's
You're gonna
nobody.
wipe out the
Wait,
entire
you're
government.
You're gonna wipe out
The
Congress.
Senate, the
Are
House.
you
You're
ready?
gonna
Are
wipe
you ready
out
to wipe
everybody.
out
all
everybody?
those J6ers are going back in.
You can't.
Okay.
They're pardoned.
Well, I'll find out if Trump auto penned it because I guess apparently those
No,
don't count.
he wet
Destiny
signatured
Artist
it.
is
Okay, well, I'll go and
And
we'll
the
double
auto
check.
pen- the auto
It better
pen
be a
is-
wet signature on every single one of those pardons.
it's
Do they have
one
to do
pardon.
individual? Okay, well, I want to see the ink on it.
It's we saw it on TV. He's signing it.
I need to make sure it's the same
One thing we
document.
know
It might
is
have been
they
a
can
second
find a way-
document. You
can
ever watch
find a way
Death
to
Note?
turn
It
around,
matters.
though. Like you can find a loophole. I'm sure he can
Yeah,
find a loophole.
let me
So
put it
first
this
thing,
way.
everybody's
First of all, Trump don't give a fuck about laws, regulations, constitution, none of that. He could just be like, I want them back in jail because they shouldn't have been pardoned, pal. Like, fuck, what the fuck? Like, Trump doing what he want anyway, defying court orders. Who gives a damn?
going back to jail. What was there? How many?
Okay,
of them?
This is under their rules. I don't believe this. This is how Trump been playing the game. So when shit is on the other foot, I don't want to hear nothing.
The more important thing is all the
1600.
charges for Trump are coming back. The J6 one, the Mar-a-Lago documents ones, those are coming back.
Because those weren't dismissed with prejudice.
Absolutely.
Judges dismissed them. Some of them were just
Those were
tossed.
taken back because Trump won office. That's it. They were voluntarily withdrawn.
No,
from the DOJ.
the Mar-a-Lago
Mar-a-Lago,
documents,
Eileen
the judge,
Cannon, she tried to fight it on some bullshit grounds.
and she won.
no,
she
she
dismissed
didn't.
them.
Yeah, but it was coming back because it was bullshit dismissal.
Okay,
Her
one,
dismissal was based on this fringe theory that the special counsel was unconstitutionally picked, which is ridiculous.
true.
Fucking
No, it's
stupid.
not true.
No, it's not.
But anyway,
So you like Jack Smith?
third thing.
Yes,
What's one more
absolutely.
thing that you would do besides wipe out the government and
only half the government.
wipe? No, I think everybody.
I'm telling you.
Once
you'd
you
have, like,
start
3
turning those
people
stones
standing.
yeah, there'd be nobody.
Like you'd have like AOC, who's actually not corrupt. You'd have like very few people. I can't even think of other people. Like
Would you
she's
bring
the
George
one person
back?
I say she's not corrupt.
Would you bring George back?
If he wins his election. Wait, have you?
You could appoint him something. That's what we do now. We just throw our friends.
My
hats.
third real thing would be
Okay.
hard line stance on Ukraine. It would be a hard line stance on Ukraine.
What about your stance on Israel?
Okay, they're fine. They do their thing. They're
So
not.
hold on, Zionism good.
No, I mean, I thought you were looking for like more support for Israel.
Yeah.
In honesty, without getting deep into it, there would start to become harsh repercussions for people that are in the West Bank. That would be my stance on Israel. They need to figure their shit out with the Palestinians because they keep trying to put it off, and they're going to keep getting terrorist attacked over and over again until they figure it out.
Well, the Judea Samaria region, commonly known as the West Bank, for those who
you got all your pro-Zionist talking points down. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, it's not pro-Zionist. I am a Zionist, Jewish. Remember?
I remember. Don't worry.
So
I was raised Catholic too,
It's-
so you know,
it's-
basically.
so I was
Jewish.
raised Catholic,
I
so
know.
yeah, I
I read
get
your
it.
whole Wikipedia. I got it.
So
Don't worry,
there
you're
you
good.
go. So the entire like dispute there, I agree with you, needs to be resolved because it's an unresolved, ongoing dispute for too long. Jerusalem, should it remain the capital of Israel?
Oh Jesus, you're asking me like the hardest questions in the world. I mean, it's not really a matter of.
It's a yes or no question, though.
The
mean
real
it's not
question is,
hard.
should the city be divided again between East Jerusalem, Old City, and then the current Jerusalem? Because the big fight is over how you divvy up.
So you want to go back to the 1963 lines?
Both sides are going to have to make painful sacrifices, and I
think-
don't know what both sides are willing to give right now because both sides are super incentivized to just continue the conflict.
After 5 U.S. presidents failed to make Jerusalem the capital after it was designated by Congress, Trump made that move. I doubt that Israel is going to want to go back on that.
Sure, well, but I mean, Trump. Nothing. He just recognized it.
He recognized something that every president said they would, and they didn't, right?
Well, because it was a really bad idea.
I don't think it was a bad idea.
It
I
was a
think
bad idea.
Congress had rectified it in the 90s.
Yeah, but you're giving Israel recognition for they haven't resolved their issue yet. That's what arguably.
Can I say something about what I genuinely think about the Gaza Strip and that region?
Be brave, yeah.
They have been at war since their inception. I don't think it's going to be resolved in our lifetime. I mean that.
It all depends on if the U.S. takes leadership over it and makes it resolved.
But the problem is when the U.S. takes leadership in a situation like that, you radicalize more people in the Middle East. You do.
It was Carter's commitment that got peace between Israel and Egypt eventually, and it was. It's possible. Like people said that Israel would never be friends with the surrounding countries, but the reason why it happened was because some Arab leaders, whether it was Sadat in Egypt, whether it was the King of Jordan, people have taken steps to make it happen, and it has happened in a formal way, and it can happen with the Palestinians. But we don't have to go into that. I'm just saying that both sides are incentivized to fight, and someone needs to come in and say, my suggestion was you drop a huge box of nukes, and then you tell both of them, you guys need to negotiate, and then by the end of the negotiations, whoever was willing to give up more gets all the nukes, and then they can blow the other person up. So they either come to an agreement and they're good,
You're
or
absolutely insane.
that's what
you mean
good.
that?
That's one way to do it.
It's creative thinking.
That's what you do.
that's
Whoever's willing to
creative
give
thinking.
more, and then maybe during this
Do you
process,
really mean that?
Sure, yeah.
Would
Drop
you?
it right between.
Hey,
Yeah, why
that's
not? Yeah.
fucking crazy. But it's like somebody. It's like he thinking of something shit. It's like something gotta happen. That shit crazy though.
That's
it's
more of a
funny.
King Solomon take. You know.
There you go.
Like,
Well, yeah, kind of, yeah.
yeah.
Fuck it.
Yeah,
That's
really.
one way to
Fuck
do
it.
it.
You literally just
Fuck
said
it.
it. That's like the fuck it attitude.
Fuck
Yes,
it,
I
yeah.
got it. Okay. All right. So how did you get into gaming and go and
Should've
the
started with that
pivot
shit.
point, right? Because I'm pretty sure gaming was a lot more lucrative.
Should
No, probably not.
No.
The
You think you make more money talking head and politics today than you did with gaming?
absolutely, yeah.
For
Really?
sure.
There's not a lot of money in politics, despite what people think. There's a lot of money talking about politics.
How much money are we talking about?
Oh, nigga.
Let me just say that there's a small part of me, and I feel revolting saying this, that almost supports Trump just because of the tax stuff. Okay, we're big tax bills. All right, let's just say that.
I mean, dude,
Not
No, I'm
only
just kidding.
that, I just don't know how interesting politics would be if Kamala won. You know what I'm saying? To be honest, I'll probably take the trade to find other shit to talk about, or it'll be funny to laugh at the people trying to shit on her for everything she does or doesn't do or whatever. But Trump winning keeps conversations, keeps the politic news cycle going. It's always something to talk about with Trump as president. I don't know if it would be as entertaining if he wasn't. There's that. And he said the tax shit, shit don't affect me, but you know.
Kidding. I would never support Trump. What was the question?
Tell me about your video games.
Yeah, I played a lot of video games growing up. Learned to read pretty quickly playing video games because back then it was all text. Thank God. So
How old were you when you started?
I don't
Normal
know,
kid age?
4 or 5. A long time ago.
What was your first system?
Wait, do you guys remember? Oh, because we're all the same age.
Yeah.
Oh, in my world, everybody's like 20 years old. So, oh my goodness.
What's the system?
Do you remember the game a long time ago? It was a combo game on the Nintendo, and it was Duck Hunt and Mario.
Yes.
Yeah, with the gun.
Yes.
Yeah,
The
that was
orange
my-
gun.
That
Yeah.
I had that.
Yeah, that was
There
my.
was a triple that had the track and field and the Mario and the Duck Hunt. That's the one I had.
Oh, I didn't. You
was
were.
great.
You must.
So
have
do you
been
remember?
one of those upper
That
middle
was the
class
first game
families?
I
I guess.
ever
I'm just
owned.
a few
That
years older. And
Do you remember the famous blow into the cartridge if it's not working
Yeah.
and stick it back in?
Oh
so
yeah.
all kids knew about that.
Or you get like,
stick it back in. You don't put it in that way. Why he just do that? I'm being nitpicky, but you didn't push forward.
like
That
Q-tip.
wasn't
You get Q-tip.
How did we know about that? Because we did not have internet. How did we all? You knew.
Q-tip?
Yeah, the Q-tip and the hydrogen peroxide, and you'd like
Yep,
swipe
yep.
the content.
So was black people the only ones that flush seat? Well, they probably didn't get to that yet, but I wonder if white people flush they PS2 games in the toilet and PlayStation 1 games. We used to. Yeah, let me know in the comments if y'all know about flushing the disc in the toilet.
Yeah.
How did we
Good
know
old
that?
days.
I don't know.
That's a universal thing. And we didn't have internet then.
And it was never proven to actually work.
No, but it worked.
But it always worked. So we've had we've spoken to a couple gamers here and there
Yeah.
on this podcast. Is there anyone that you just absolutely cannot stand and you would love to debate them?
In the gaming world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I feel like I
don't
know the
He
answer to
don't-
this
he
one.
doesn't game like he
No.
used to.
Who
No,
You're friends
not
with
Aiden
everybody?
Ross.
is he a gamer?
He's a Twitch
No.
streamer.
He's not
Kick
a
streamer, I
gamer.
think.
Does that count?
Kick, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Ooh,
Okay.
What did he
I mean,
say?
streamer.
Who
No,
You're friends
not
with
Aiden
everybody?
Ross.
is he a gamer?
Aiden Ross not a gamer.
He's a Twitch streamer.
Oh, Twitch.
Kick streamer, I think.
Does
right?
that count?
Kick, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh, I'm
I mean,
old.
the problem is he's kind of like I'm not
not
trying to
a
be mean, but he's
gamer.
he's not like a political person. It's all kind of like memes and
It
stuff.
wouldn't be. Okay, so how about this?
Well,
He's
but
not a
hold on.
gamer.
He interviewed
Destiny
Trump.
doesn't game.
Rode in a
Trump
Cybertruck
isn't
with
like
him.
a political person. He's a fucking joker as well. I mean, what do you mean?
He's the president of the United
He's literally. If you listen to Donald Trump, Donald Trump has a 40-word vocabulary that he uses in every single interview.
What's two of his favorite
Come on,
words?
give us a Trump sentence then,
Never
based on
before
your
seen,
own
never seen
assessment
before.
of his vocabulary.
Well,
Ask
that
me
you've never
a
seen before.
complicated foreign policy question.
Destiny, what will you do to
This is gonna be
resolve
President
the
Trump.
trading deficit
This is gonna be
between the
funny.
United States and the United Kingdom?
Okay,
gonna be funny.
the United Kingdom, I can't do his accent, but the United Kingdom has treated us so horribly. And Biden was a sucker. They've taken advantage of us. We're being treated horribly by them. And I'm going to talk to them. And we're going to have the best deal. It's going to be so much for the United States. I've never seen so much as it's going to be for the United
gonna be
States.
so much.
Illegal immigrants. Basically, that would be his answer. Yeah.
That's definitely.
And you would never get. I've had this challenge
immigrants.
running for conservative for 8 years. Give me a single clip where Trump is speaking about anything where it sounds like he actually knows what he's talking about.
people aspired.
Now, I will. To be fair, some older clips where he was like in his 30s and 40s and shit. He had more words for sure, and he sounded like he knew what he was talking about. If you don't know anything, he sounded like he knew what he was talking about. Like when he was sitting on Oprah and she was like, "You sound like a president. It sounds like some political presidential talking you're doing there. Would you ever run?" He sounded like he knew what he was talking about. Now, that's not a thing. He can't do it. He can never speak like that ever.
To be Donald Trump all throughout the 80s
Yeah, and
and
some
90s
people
and
aspire to
early.
be. What does that mean?
No, no.
What do you
Aspired to
say?
be Donald Trump all throughout the 80s
Yeah, and
and
some
90s
people
and
aspire to
early.
be. What does that mean?
No, no,
What do you
no,
mean?
no,
Who cares?
Absolutely
Well, you
not.
said throughout
No,
the
no,
80s
no.
and 90s,
wonder
he
what
had
he
the rich
said.
party boy. Oh, I'm doing cocaine. Got a lot of women, got a lot of baby mamas. Like he had that persona. Back in
Never
the
ever
80s,
had
90s.
alcohol. What are you talking about?
I doubt he did cocaine. Trump seems like one of those guys who's
He
like,
doesn't do
I don't
drugs.
drink because it changes my mind.
Yeah,
Whatever.
like
You don't think he does drugs?
No,
God.
no, absolutely.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't either. I don't even know if he would drink. I don't. Trump don't strike me as a drug user, to be honest. I honestly agree with that. Drinking, I don't know. Maybe a beer, if that. But that don't surprise me, to be honest.
Absolutely.
How
No,
deluded.
he's square like that. Like
I think
President Trump is
I think he'd be a
square.
better guy if
No
he did
drugs, no
he
alcohol.
needs to do drugs. I think it would loosen him up a
He
little bit. Yeah.
definitely he
see
allegedly.
him
I'm going to say
drinking
allegedly, unless he wants to come here and sit down and talk to us.
That would be
Because I would love
epic.
for him to sit
We
in
could
the
go to
chair.
White House. Let's make it easy.
We'll come to you.
I'd love to sit down
and I'll
with
do your
President.
hair. I'll bring my wig spray. So no, absolutely, like we will come to him.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, so I got to ask you a question because this comes up a lot on the internet.
Yeah.
What is your relationship, if any at all, with Nick Fuentes?
It's not what some people seem to think it is after recent events. I promise you that.
You love this. The smile on your face answering that.
I did Google some stuff, but
What'd you
don't-
see?
What came up?
I don't want to tell you
I
about
love
it.
your reaction on
Everybody-
it.
Yeah,
by the way.
here's-
like when
okay,
I don't know
but-
whose show you were on, you're like, shit happens. And you're just like, it is what
What
it
are
is.
you gonna do? Yeah.
I feel like they skipped this
So,
stuff.
like I said, my penchant coming into the political world was I was a left-leaning person politically, but I kind of had the right-leaning, the masculine, like debater archetype traits. So that gave me, I think, a unique proclivity for arguing with much further right people who also do a lot of debate. So my background with Fuentes is I think we had our first debate, I want to say like 7 or 8 years ago. And then we've kind of gone back and forth since then. He ditched me for Kanye West.
So, that relationship with Fuentes is always
Bro, wait, what the fuck just happened? What is this skipping? What just happened?
First debate, I want to say like 7 or 8 years ago.
And
And
then
then
the
we've
audio
kind of
got
gone
off
back and
sync?
forth since then. He ditched me for Kanye West.
so. That relationship with Fuentes is always brought up, right? So,
Yeah, among other people, yeah.
okay, so he broke your heart.
I wouldn't say that.
What the fuck just happened, bro? What? It skipped. It got off sync, but it seems like the conversation was kind of still flowing. What just happened?
For Kanye West.
So, that relationship with Fuentes is always brought up, right? So,
Yeah, among other people, yeah.
okay, so he broke your heart.
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, come on. You just sounded heartbroken. That leads me into my next question. There's a famous video online that circulated, which
A lot of deepfakes out there too, so who knows what's real or not.
true,
But, go ahead, yeah.
but the video gets tested for deepfake. You kind of shrugged your shoulder and said, like, it is what it is and it sucks. And so you're not going to tell us if that video was Nick Fuentes?
It's not Nick Fuentes.
But you
no.
can confirm that that was you.
First of all, why are people trying to make that video about Nick Fuentes? That's so weird. Why are people? I'm sorry for the sounds, y'all. Why are people just saying like it's Nick Fuentes? Like, why? That's so weird. It's like, where did it come from and why? It's just like that's Nick Fuentes, bro. Why are y'all saying that? Like, why? There's no reason to think that.
I guess if people have doubts in their mind, then I'm not going to say anything to
I mean, you
assuage
can't
those
deny
doubts.
it. You can't deny
And for the
He never
record-
denied it, by the
And
way.
for the record, I've not seen the video. I only read about it. So,
I saw
does
it.
anybody have like a clip that they can?
You don't want a clip of that.
We don't want
Oh.
to clip of
You
that.
don't want to.
Was it not some of your finest work?
It wasn't even, that was probably the saddest part. It absolutely was
So
not.
are you saying, are you far more talented than you showed off in the video?
I would hope so. But
Okay, so-
Jesus, this is a video of me giving a to a guy, okay? That's what we're talking about now, okay? I think you're like very much not, yeah.
Okay, so I was not in the
Okay.
know. Oh.
wanna
Jesus
say
Christ.
it. I didn't
Okay,
wanna
yeah.
say it.
This is a video we're talking
So,
about.
so I'm going to ask you this question just because
Yeah.
it begs the question. I know
Raises a question. Go ahead.
you were married.
We broke up a while ago, but not because of that. So
Do you have children?
one child.
Okay.
Oh, you have kids?
Yeah, that's why I was in Nebraska before this. I was hanging out with him because it was his birthday.
How do you protect
Oh,
your
happy
kid from
birthday.
all of? Because I know you said
Your whole life's
Your
online.
entire life is online.
whole
how do
what?
you? How do you protect your kid when your entire life?
Initially, I thought about it, but he's 14 now, so he's like an actual like human being.
Uh-oh.
who is-
Yeah.
So at this point
He's at
now,
that age where
just-
he's curious.
How do you explain that
he's
video to
beyond
him?
curious. I don't talk to my son about explosive videos. I start
Right,
explaining
talking
about
how you
videos.
So
explain
here's
that
the question.
How do you
Yeah.
explain it? How
As
would
somebody
you
who
talk about
doesn't
it?
have kids, you have a kid.
Yeah.
How do you navigate the internet? A big issue between my husband and I now is he wants kids. I've always subscribed to that plan, but I'm terrified of putting kids in the world with my entire life being online. And
With Donald Trump as president.
well, no, that has nothing to do with it. With my entire life being out there, and I don't want my kid to go suffer. Like, how do you protect your kid from that?
These days, I don't think you can. Like in our
How are
days,
you managing? That's my question.
my only goal with my son is to make sure that he feels comfortable talking to me no matter what. Like I don't ever want him to think that he can't talk to me about a thing.
Yeah.
And then to make sure that at least he's hitting his baselines in school. So he's passing all his classes, ideally getting A's or B's.
You're doing a dad thing.
Yeah,
being a parent.
and as long as he's got those two things, like he
you accept B's though. That's a pretty cool dad.
Oh, well, I'm not
Well,
Chinese.
That's actually
Okay.
fucked up. That's really
The
fucked
We've said way more fucked up on this show.
the yeah, I mean, as long as he
so stereotypical. Oh my god, it's so bad.
as long as he's like not having huge difficulty. I mean, he engages a lot now online. The issue is that like when we were kids, you could legitimately make the argument that parents should be monitoring their kids' online activity. And if the kid is getting up to no good, unless it's a very clever kid, the parent is probably fucking up. These days, every device in the world is connected to the internet. Like we had it at one point, he was grounded from his phone because he had gotten in trouble being too edgy. And we found out that at school, there was a friend that was like basically bringing him an extra phone to use like, on the bus and shit. And it's like, fuck, dude, at this point, they can make any account. They
Kids
can
are
lie
peddling
about their
phones now?
Yeah, it's way too
Kids
online,
with two
so-
phones though.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
though.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
They're
that's
like
crazy.
probably peddling phones.
A
like, you
world
know,
of
like Joe-
catfishes.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Future generation.
Yeah, that's another one. Like,
That's
listen,
crazy.
bro, if just don't send any pictures of yourself to anybody because who knows who you're talking to.
So back to the.
Okay.
Are you talented at doing that?
Not, I have more experience with women, okay?
So what?
Oh,
made
so
you do
hold
it?
on. Your experience with men is limited.
Very, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So is it a piquing interest now, or have you always known I have an interest in both?
I don't know, probably around 29, 30, I was like, yeah, why not? Let's try it.
But was it a curiosity you had that you just ignored, or
I just never really thought about it, I guess.
really?
I went to, when I think kid was 6 or 7, I went to school once and they had one of those drag queens doing the reading story hour. And I just can't, it's just rotting my mind. I couldn't handle it.
I love how you did that. That's actually funny. That was actually very
Why
funny.
you tell a joke and
That's
then
gonna
sit
be
there
a
with
clip.
serious
That's clippable.
face?
So drag queen story hours turned you gay.
Basically.
Oh
yeah.
my god.
Bye.
Oh right.
Not fully gay. I stopped going, so they didn't get me all the way. You know? It was crazy. We were walking out, and they were like, "Do you want these prep pills?" And I was like, "I don't know what the fuck that is." And I was like, "Give them to the 6th graders." Okay,
You're
yeah.
the first person that I've ever heard say it just kind of was a thing that
Oh,
happened in your
God.
mind. At 29 years old,
Yeah.
no curiosity before.
Not really, no. I don't
So that
think.
means that means you can probably be straight one day.
Girl, I tried that. It didn't work out.
It ain't gonna
At the
happen.
very
didn't
least,
work
at the
out.
very least, you could be straight-ish, right?
Ish.
But a lot of people would argue that sexuality is kind of fluid anyway.
Oh,
The big difficulty when it comes to things like sexual orientation or sexual interest is to peel away like how much is a thing that I genuinely desire versus how much is a thing that's like socially like really reinforced or programmed. Because at some point, I mean, like there are, I imagine the majority of people, or at least over 50%, are genuinely straight in that they would have no interest in ever doing anything with a similar sex person. And then there are probably a good percentage of people who would, but they feel some type of shame or some type of like social revulsion towards it.
that was my case.
sure,
until
maybe,
I,
yeah.
Until I freaking just kicked the bucket.
bucket,
yeah. Yeah.
But you know, that is what it is.
It was
It's so
social.
interesting.
I had social fears of being gay or being with another dude. I was married, for crying out loud, to a woman. So,
But thankfully, progressives paved the way for you to
you to
become
be
even a gay
open.
Republican congressman. How cool is
You know-
that?
you know,
Wow.
look,
Thanks to
I-
I
progress.
will say, if it was up to Republicans and conservatives, there would be no gay congressmen. It just wouldn't be a thing. That's a fact.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna
That's
say
a
this:
fact.
I 100%
That's a fact.
will give certain wins to the progressive movement. The problem is that they've gone from progress to insanity with certain instances, like
Not
girls
the
and
majority.
boys and girls sports.
But it's the same thing on the Republican side where it's like, okay, do you think that like somebody for domestic violence, there should be some type of red flag law to flag somebody to where it's like, okay, maybe there's at least like a waiting period for them to buy a firearm if they've been involved in a certain thing. When conservatives say no on these issues, they're not thinking, I want that abuser to have access to a firearm. They're thinking, if I give ground here, what's next? Right. And I think that for progressives, it's the same thing. If we give ground here, what are they coming for next? Because once abortion went away and they started attacking trans people, what were they talking about next? Gay marriage, right? Is what progressives are worried about. So everybody's so worried about this sliding into losing everything that they have to defend the outer perimeter of the most extreme examples. Otherwise, they're going to be seen as weak and they're
Can I
going to
ask
have
a
to give up
personal
more than
question?
one.
Of course I can.
Yeah.
You have a 14-year-old, so this is probably a great example. If your son came and said, "Hey, Dad, I am now trans. I want to transition into being female." Are you, as a parent, gonna say no?
Oh, what's
you
happening
can't
with their audio sync? God damn.
do that.
That's because they kept doing them clips and cuts and shit. They got the shit off sync. I wonder like what and then y'all uploaded it like this. Jesus Christ. I just wonder what's the problem that they couldn't get this shit clipped together right.
As soon as he says he's trans, I'm probably taking away the phone and the computer. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Okay, Elon.
No.
Okay, Elon.
Here's what I will say for the gays. Here's what I'll say for the gays. The good thing about the trans stuff is there are so many conservative parents out there who their kid has come to them like, Dad, I need to talk to you. And the dad's like, oh, fuck. And the kid's like, I think I'm gay. And the kid's like, thank God. He's not trans.
No.
It's not they rather be okay with the gay than the trans. That's hilarious.
You know what? I joke about that all
That's
the time. It's like,
hilarious.
thank God I grew up in the 90s when you can play with Barbies and your mom didn't instantly want to put you on hormone blockers.
Yeah.
Because nowadays, little boys can't touch Barbies. Mom's like, gotta call the hormone therapist. Gotta take him to endocrinologist.
I think that's
we need
parents
hormone
trying to keep
blockers.
their kids
I
alive.
don't know
Like,
if that's the truth.
okay,
There's a
maybe
lot- there's
Maybe
a
a
lot of it.
small percentage of
Yeah,
people that
I
do
think-
it.
and
but-
those are the
people are
ones that make
reading-
headlines.
Whatever happened to sissy boys and tom girls?
No, I agree. I think
Tomboy
that
girls.
especially in the
Still
90s and the
exist.
2000s, I think you saw this
still
really cool
exist.
thing where gender categories were being exploded in terms of more tomboyish people. And then you have like your men there was the whole metrosexual movement where men could like groom themselves. But if you're starting to tell like a
used to hang out
kid
in the
like you need
village.
to get like on drugs or puberty blockers because of you're
You and
depressed in
George
school.
agree on that.
Oh, look,
Maybe, yeah,
notion.
but
Here's the deal. I used to hang out in the village, so dyeing your hair blue and putting piercings all over your face really don't faze me, right?
Sure.
I even had a tongue piercing at one point in my
But the
life.
difference is back then we could say like you're going through a phase, you're goth,
was
or
a phase
whatever.
for me, for
but
sure.
But to seriously answer the question, if my kids said that they were
Yeah.
trans or whatever, like I would have a serious conversation about it because I do think trans people are real. I think that if you really
think
are
they're real.
trans, you're gonna know way before you're fucking
14,
18.
yeah.
You're gonna know as soon as puberty starts. But
gonna
the
know before
difficulty is
then.
teasing out like how much of these struggles that you're having are like the ordinary struggles of
Adolescence.
adolescence and everything else versus is there actually like a body dysphoria, gender dysphoria thing. Don't do that because your side would ban
Exactly.
all of that treatment for
Like
my
that-
Exactly. Like, why is he? Yeah. No, they don't think. They damn near don't think trans people exist. So for him to act like, and maybe he feels differently, but they damn near want to act like trans people don't exist. They don't care to figure out what they're going through. They don't really want anybody that's trans to be trans. Talking about when you're 18, by the time you're 18 and you ain't did nothing about it, then the harm is heightened up exponentially.
Agrees
But,
with
but,
you, though.
but that's the deal. I
Like,
agree with you. I've
Mm-hmm.
said this to you in the onset. I dish out equally to both sides. I think
Okay.
extremism fails Americans. Gender dysphoria affects.
But you still like Trump? Sorry. My bad. Go ahead.
Exactly.
I love Trump,
had
and
to
you're
throw
not
that
going to
in.
change my mind.
I know.
Gender dysphoria equates for 1% of the American population, and some argue that it's actually less.
Sure.
But in rounding up 1%, that puts us at about 350,000 Americans, right? At best. I don't even think that there's that many trans people in this country. So if we're really going to talk about it, we need to talk about gender dysphoria care and making that wildly available so people can actually go and really find out with
His
a
side
proper
doesn't want that,
diagnosis.
though.
But anyway, look,
Maybe he does,
we
but
can
the
talk
other
about
side
this shit
doesn't
forever.
Oh,
want
yeah.
I like to do this. We like to do this end of the show segment. So 2 truths and a lie, Destiny.
Two
that's
truths and a
hard.
lie. When I was younger,
It's hard to do on the spot.
I had an issue with my car. It wouldn't start, and I was kind of broke, and I couldn't afford a tow truck. So I had a friend push my car 4 miles to the
He finna
auto
fuck
repair
with
shop.
them.
And we did it by tying pillows to our bumpers. And I was on the cell phone with him, and he drove as he pushed my car with his car for like 4 miles down the road. My second thing is
He finna fuck with them and make it
my
obvious.
first serious girlfriend in high school was super religious, or at least her family was super religious.
This is way
When we
too
were
long.
hooking up,
This is probably true because he corrected himself.
we were in this church, we were bad kids, we were hooking up in like the sealed off area for like the I guess for like crying kids or whatever. And then we came out and there were probably like, there's always some people in church, there's like 5 or 6 people praying who like started giving us death eyes or whatever. So all those people definitely just heard us like hooking up for like 30 minutes, which was mortifying. And then she got kicked out of that church because the pastor guy
And
recognized
he's
her.
laughing. That's probably true.
That's the second thing. And then the third thing,
These long stories.
my grandma was a hypochondriac, kind of like you. She had a lot of pain medication, and she would have me run and pick up all the pain meds for her. And eventually she developed dementia and stuff was kind of not okay with her brain. And she moved down to Florida down here with my parents. And I had like this whole cabinet full of like hydrocodone, oxycodone, and Vicodin that I started to get advice from a coworker on how I could sell all this stuff because I was like working class-ish. Like I didn't have very much money. And I was like, this is like the best financial opportunity I'm ever going to have in my life. To make
Okay,
it
now the first story and the last one sound crazy. The first one and this one sounds crazy.
money. Those are my three things. Okay.
Okay. So,
That last one's probably the lie. That last one's a lie. But
So,
the first one was crazy too.
I think this is actually
This is
interesting
tough.
because they're in depth.
Very
Yeah.
They
in-depth
could all
stories.
be truths.
yeah.
Very easily.
So
That's
I
why he
mean,
did that on purpose. He made it really in depth, everything in depth on purpose. That nigga a good liar because he just had these details.
obviously you think quick on your feet and you can elaborate fast. So
Yeah,
those
that
were
was
very
smart.
well thought together. Now, for some reason, the car just stands out as something that I can almost see you doing. Like, bro, just slowly push and you have your car neutral, and I can see
I
that.
don't
I'm gonna
No.
say the lie was the having sex in church.
He didn't say sex. He said hook up.
Oh,
But
well, making noises.
Were you alluding to sex?
No, hooking up.
Okay,
Because we
yeah.
were both kids and didn't want to
The
get
fuck
anybody
is hooking
pregnant.
up? What does hooking up mean? I don't even know what that means. Even for like, if you're talking about his kids, if you say you're not having sex, what does hooking up mean?
So we define hooking up.
Different.
Yeah, like,
yeah,
White
that's
people
why.
and
it
white
just
folks
means sex.
definitely define hooking up way
Way
different.
different.
why.
Yeah, what the hell was that? I thought hooking up meant sex.
I'm gonna say the lie
last
is I can see you pushing pills, dude. I'm sorry. I can actually see you
I
pushing
think that's
pills.
the lie.
So I'm gonna say the lie is a church story.
Better on?
I think that the lie is the pill pushing. I think
Yeah.
you loved those pills with your friends and you enjoyed them together.
The pill.
Wow.
So which one is the
She ain't gonna
lie?
guess.
The car story in the beginning actually happened. That was terrifying. The worst part was there's a really big intersection. We had to make like a left turn and my car wouldn't start. So I'm fully relying on my friend pushing me. So I'm on the phone with him and the light turns yellow and he's like, we gotta stop. And I'm like, it's an uphill. If we stop, you're never gonna be able to get me through this intersection. So I'm like screaming at him and he's like, okay, I'm gonna push you through and stop. So he slams his brakes and I go sailing through this intersection with no power on my car. And then I'm just rolling, waiting for him to catch me. So that was terrifying.
Damn.
That actually happened. The
exciting.
church story is totally made up. I would never get caught publicly doing any of that.
I
told you
look
look
fucking kidding me. The most boring one is the one is the lie. Like
Like a pill pusher.
I guess that's how you make yourself interesting. He tells the craziest shit he's ever done and makes something boring up.
He looks like
the
a pill
pill story?
taker.
I didn't think
No, I
that
did a
pill shit is a little crazy. That's crazy.
A little tricky. The pill story is half true, in that I actually never used any drugs until I was like 30. I think I tried weed like twice, but I was a good kid like that, I guess.
You got active at 30. Damn.
But the the pills, I had talked to a coworker on it, but I'd accidentally thrown out all of them before I'd realized the value. So I remember I took one of these slips because back then, I don't know if it's still this way, but you could go to a pharmacy and just say, here's this, and here's my grandma's like phone number or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
and they give you everything. And I showed this to a friend at the casino. He's like, bro, this is like $3,000 worth of shit. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wait,
Shit.
The street
$3,000? Because I didn't know what
value.
any oxy had. I didn't know what
So
any of
my
these
mom
things were.
was
Like,
my mom was a cancer patient, and
Okay.
and she died and left an arsenal of methadone,
Arsenal.
morphine, oxycodone, OxyContin.
I had a pillowcase that
And
I
you sold it
filled.
to Congress.
I had a
I
pillowcase.
put it in the soda bottle and threw vinegar as they instructed, never realizing there was a street value to it.
I had a pillowcase that was
And I could
completely
use the
full.
money, and I
But where
could
do
have
you go
used
to
the money.
sell this stuff? Like,
Well, I
you
would
put it
have
on
just told them to the
Craigslist?
people that worked
Like,
at the casino, but I had a pillowcase that was full of these bottles, and I threw it down the trash chute. And after he told me at the casino how much money I'd thrown away, me and my girlfriend were
tried
dumpster
to go-
diving. Yeah, to try to find the pillowcase because it was like
Someone got
100
happy.
bottles of this.
Someone got happy.
Somebody found that
Somebody
stuff.
found-
and-
Bring
You
them
didn't-
back to the pharmacy.
No,
really.
or put them in a 2-liter container and throw vinegar over. It's like it's a whole, and then not put it in the water system either. Don't flush it.
Oh
So
my
yeah, but anyway, Destiny, this was fun. We had fun. Thank you for coming on Pants on Fire. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Yeah, it was wonderful meeting
Sorry,
you.
George made it so political. You know, I
It's
just wanted to
okay,
talk
it's
pop
okay.
culture and stuff, but you know, Trump and Israel and Ukraine and man,
Not
geez.
gonna happen.
Good old George.
Well, that was the full podcast. Well, that was pretty interesting. I guess I don't know if I could watch George I don't think I could watch him talk to somebody I'm not interested in, but those two personalities was cool to see. If you made it to this point in the video, make sure to leave a like, comment, sub. If not one, then all three. And I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one. Peace.